This program contains graphic material, including offensive language. Viewer discretion is advised. Albuquerque, New Mexico. Hot, dry, desert air and sunny skies are common here. More than 300 days of the year. This desert oasis was first settled by the Pueblo Indians thousands of years ago.
The soul of New Mexico is still rooted in that rugged individualism, that we are the people of the land.
Terrorism, this is the real terrorism. And it terrorizes little kids. And no one's doing anything about it.
It's a vicious, and of course the longer it goes, the worse it gets. The longer a child doesn't have contact, the harder it is to reunite that child with the parent.
Some dads say one lie can shatter lives, end relationships with their children, and send them into bankruptcy.
Destroy the family part is happening that no one even notices. No one's noticing it. It's everywhere you look, but you just really don't pay much mind.
They lied. When we left the country, we didn't know we were leaving, or where we knew we were leaving. We didn't know where we were going until we were in the air on the plane. They didn't tell us. Once we got to England, they told us our mother didn't want us anymore, that she didn't love us, that they told us that she hated kids, and she was tired of diapers and doing laundry, and that she left us.
You don't realize how important and how effective it is in holding back humanity.
Karl Marx said that in order to establish a perfect socialist state, you have to destroy the family. You have to substitute the government and its authority for parental authority in the rearing of children.
is that there's a wide range, so it can be from very mild to very, very severe.
In Alex's case, it was severe, in your opinion.
In my opinion, it was severe. I mean, he was frustrated at every turn with respect to just being enjoying a natural relationship with his daughter and being her father.
Some dads say one lie can shatter lives in relationships with their children and send them into bankruptcy.
In the building area that I was in construction and business, and I was invited to Barbados by a group of fellow investors. I had plans to come visit my uncle for that trip, but I put it off because of the opportunity. I had made that commitment. Well, turns out that year he was murdered. He was the 6th victim of a killer, 5th or 6th, we're still not so sure.
Llegar acá y ver que su familia murió y eso lo trajo como en shock, o no sé, él estaba siempre deprimido, llorando.
It's being called the ultimate form of child abuse. Parents brainwashing their children in order to win custody.
You know, I think she's just such a beautiful girl, such a doll. And I think, you know, she'll get older and she will come around, like, she'll understand one day, you know, and like just keep trying to get in touch with her, keep trying to talk to her. As long as you keep trying, it might be years and your heart might break like 100 times waiting, but she will come around. She's like probably, and like, you have to think, like, I have been sober lives for years and years and years, like, you know, she's probably to a certain degree, like, brainwashed, you know? And, like, so it's a shame is, like, so smart, and, like, it's really a shame to take someone like that and, like, remake their brain into what you want it to be. It's really, like, a disgusting, selfish thing for your ex to be doing to, honestly. It pisses me off. He doesn't seem to, like, be protection and, you know, as her main priority. You should want to advance your child and enhance their life, not your own, by using them.
That one shouldn't surprise you. You know, that's nothing new. She's been acting that way from day one. So, yeah. The thing you got to focus on is what should you be doing, and you won't change her in this lifetime. I doubt, and you won't change, and you know, that could be a battleground. You have to do right by yourself, and maybe the Lord eventually soften her heart in one way or another. But so I'd do two things. When you can, I'd catch up your child support, number one, and number two, I would call a local attorney, or remember the lady that represented you that last time in court.
Process, because if I don't have enough money to pay the child support in the first place, why am I going to dump a bunch of money into legal expenses and costs and trying to incur the legal action to get privileges to be able to visit my kids?
I've had my heart.
Yeah, and so the route I chose was I decided that I would strive to live long enough for my kids to turn 18 so that I could then have a relationship with them.
I want to tell her that I abandoned her. They want her to think that her father just abandoned her. You know, I've been out here working, sending messages, calling everyone, calling the police, calling services, calling the whole entire family, grandfather, grandmother.
Let's talk about the definition then. So parental alienation will tend to occur in a high conflict case. It's marked by a rejection and denigration of the child to the other parent that reaches the level of a camapaign. Secondly, it's not justified, so it's not due to deficiencies in the targeted or the access parent. And third, there is an active involvement by the custodial or the primary residential parent that is driving this denigration and rejection.
These three fathers have spent more than $150,000 in legal fees.
If you don't have the funds, you can kiss your kids goodbye.
I saw somebody that couldn't even function, and it was due to someone that he was involved with, the mother of his child, kidnapping his child from him, taking his child from him, and turning his child against him, and he was in real bad shape, and I haven't seen anyone in that bad shape in a long time. So it was very hard to witness a friend going through that, and it's just you know, it's a hard thing to watch, knowing these women can get away with that.
The damage was done. To me, of course, but to my kids too.
I tried contacting all of the mothers involved in these stories. Only Phil Shriver's ex-wife responded. Kelly Griffin tells me she believes women lie all the time to get custody of their kids. And if she did that, she said she would not confess.
Now, this is the saddest topic, and that's partly, I think, why I'm always drawn to wearing black when I give these talks. There's just so much suffering here. But here's a little bit of humor. You can see the guy on the right looks pretty despondent. He's got some Band-Aids. He's been beaten up. He looks pretty demoralized. Life's really taken a bad turn. Okay, this is from the New Yorker. And I won't ask you to guess what the caption is. I'll just tell you if I can get this to work. Since we don't have children, my ex turned the cats against me. So, I know. Oh, okay. And I love this. He totally nails it, right? It's not really about the kids. If there's no kids, it's the dogs. If there's no dogs, it's the cats. It's sort of whatever. Because people who do this, and they're going to do it till they're done doing it.
And I could relate to him because much like my brother, who people have never said a bad word about, and he's never said a bad word about anyone, but he married the wrong girl, and it was obviously he was going to go places and she wasn't, so she had to set his children, this boy and this girl, against him, and now he's still estranged from them. But I see a lot of the same parallels between my brother as far as those lines, being nice guys and not being just not being appreciated for it, and having women that know that they're better to try to bring them down. So
Parental alienation on the one hand, which is a set of strategies that a parent uses to try to turn the child against the other parent. Parental alienation syndrome is the resulting response in the child. And it's important to make this distinction because not every child who's exposed to parental alienation strategies does succumb to the pressure and does reject that other parent. So we need to have a language for talking about the effort on the one hand of the parent who's trying to turn the child against the other parent, and then the child's response when that child comes to believe that that other parent is completely unworthy of having a relationship with.
I was lost. I had no self-worth. I didn't feel good for anybody. I was treated as a traitor in my home for speaking or trying to speak about my family that was left behind. And I believed what they told me to an extent that my family in Canada, my maternal family, didn't want me either.
Such terrible things that in the end weren't true. I look back now down and realized how many false memories were embedded in my mind. It's difficult to try to remember the good memories
Why do
when so
some
many
parents do
distorted
everything
memories
within their
emerge?
power to turn their children against the other parent? How does the justice system deal with this serious problem? And what can be
and the
done
book
to
talks
help
about
children?
the way I've been treated, the way this has been dealt with, me being inside of a system where there was never any acknowledgement of my rights as a father, none. You get into a divorce and you're in this Lewis Carroll world where everything, north is south, up is down, black is white, everything is renounced, everything is for the purposes of this kind of gladiatorial combat. So I had been living with this for 7 years. I mean, you're talking to somebody who was conciliatory with a capital C for 7 years. And it gained me no ground. Everything stayed as black and as bad and as uncooperative and as destructive and as personal as it could be for 7 years. So then I left that voicemail message, which obviously, as most people would deduce, I was really speaking to someone else on that voicemail.
En la vida de ella porque la extraña. Y todo para esto él es complicado porque él ha perdido peso, casi no se arreglaba mucho, no le importaba cómo se veía por fuera, porque tanto era lo deprimido que él se siente en la realidad, porque él quiere estar cerca de su familia, él quiere más comunicación con esta niña que es tan importante para él.
If the alienation continues and it's shared custody, then the court has to go to the stage of considering the transfer of custody. And again, you have to take into account the effect on a child who is refusing to go to that parent, being forced to go, versus, I say, the longer term harm of leaving him with a custodial parent who's psychologically damaged. And then you may move on to cutting the access off even after you've changed custody to the parent and doing what is called a parentectomy, where you remove that parent for a while to allow the bond between the targeted parent and the child to heal.
Porque en realidad no le importa que ellos sientan. Lo pones en contra para que ellos no estén juntos. Y eso es malo.
I've attempted suicide 3 times in my life.
The depression I experienced was so extreme. It was just like a coma. I was in a coma. And then I'd kind of get out of it, and then I'd just slip right back into the coma. And then you can't think. You're in this thing where your child is being a voodoo doll, to where you just keep poking it to hurt me, and it's a hard thing to watch, it's a hard thing to live through. I've been in a motorcycle wreck where I slid on the pavement for 100 feet. The depression, I had a pretty active life. I've been around, pushing forward, and never have I ever been like.
I was about 14, and I saw the name, my mother's family name, and Canada on it. So I found out years later, my grandma sent parcels to us once they found out where we were. Because in the 70s, England was like going to the moon to us now. It was such a long way away for people, but they returned the parcels every time they sent them. We weren't allowed any contact whatsoever. When I was 16, my father and stepmother sat me down in the living room and told me if I wanted to go back to Canada to live with my mom, I could. So I said I did. So a few months later, it was time supposedly for me to go. The night before I was supposed to leave, my dad again, they sat me down and they told me that if I come to Canada, I will never see my sisters or my brother again. So I didn't go. I got scared and I wouldn't come. And my mom and my grandma were at the airport here in Edmonton, waiting for me to get off the plane that I wasn't on. So it's just been stuff like that. They just completely incompassionate, cold-hearted, vicious things they do, these people. That
a parent who would do this, to go to such a length, it has a mental health problem or a personality disorder?
Psychological studies show that there's a high rate of psychopathology in a parent that would do this. And just think about it. You know, a normal parent would not do it. And so if this is a good parent in every other respect except for this psychopathology, I say they're not a good parent because they are breaking the bond with another equally important parent. And that shows they're not in a position to make proper decisions. They shouldn't have custody.
Porque esto causa traumas y de hacer que ella le tenga rabia y enojo a Brian no soluciona el problema, no ayuda a nadie.
The focus for me was that I was so angry with my ex for depriving me the opportunities that I did have, the rare ones, to visit with my kids and spend quality time with them and have an impact in their life and the way they think and those kind of things. And, you know, I feel like it hurt the kids more than it hurt me, although that's maybe not possible. I don't know.
She was called the Thing. That's how the family referred to her.
The Thing?
The Thing. And when I did try and tell
yeah, and so the route I chose was I decided that I would strive to live long enough for my kids to turn 18 so that I could then have a relationship with them.
As you were saying, the harder it is to undo that kind of damage to a child.
One of the problems is, too, that the targeted parent will somehow think perhaps it's their fault or maybe they're putting too much stress on the child by trying to see them, and that access parent will withdraw, which is probably the worst thing they can do. Because
you mean
that just
walk away?
Walk away or withdraw or start giving up on the access, which just lets the alienating parent have more time to complete their job.
Well, I'm regretting it as far as my son is concerned. I mean, I feel like he's very confused and in a very difficult puberty transitional phase of his life that I feel like I could be a positive influence, but I can't.
Creo que este problema es demasiado grande, porque esta depresión que sostiene por él es demasiado extremadamente grande, que él se mantiene todo el tiempo deprimido. Creo que la solución es que él otra vez tenga contacto con ella, comunicación con ella, para que él se sienta mucho mejor, porque lo único que él necesita es estar cerca de su hija. Él no está pidiendo otra cosa, no es nada sobrenatural, él solo está diciendo que quiere estar al lado de su hija, que es la persona que él más quiere. Creo que deberían considerar ver qué se hace en el caso de él, porque es malo que las mamás saquen de la vida de los niños a los papás solo por represalias o por enojos o por peleas estúpidas.
The Reader's Digest version, I guess, is that my wife and I got separated and then divorced, and then I got behind in child support, and she denied me visitation privileges on an occasion when I had a car and money and the ability to go visit them, and she had no, legal. It wasn't a court decision. This was her individual, unilateral decision to deprive me the right to see my kids. I have a daughter who's now 20 and a 17. It's difficult because there for a while, neither of the two kids would communicate with me because they were angry with me because they didn't really understand what was going on. And of course I didn't tell them and couldn't tell them. And actually there was a court order to prevent, backbiting about one spouse out the other and all that kind of stuff. And so, I honored that and didn't tell them anything about what was going on. And but I know they were angry enough that they stopped communicating with me. And then when my daughter, who's now 20, turned 18, I communicated with her after a hiatus of probably a couple of years because she wouldn't answer me. And then when I wrote her on her 18th birthday, she did answer me. And we had a nice correspondence and communication from that time on. I was in real-time communication with her when she was going to her high school prom, and she was not the prom queen, but she was runner-up. And when she applied for college and got accepted, I don't have any communication cheerleading team and got accepted. I wrote her 2 email type messages, I think via Facebook or something, maybe email, explaining to her my desire to be involved in my son's life and to help him with this situation, and I would even communicate with her in order to help that happen. But she didn't respond to me other than indirectly through my son. That's her decision, and it's not one I have to live with, but maybe she feels the same way. She doesn't want to communicate with me. I want nothing to do with this woman ever again. I mean, I thought I knew and loved this person, and anybody who would deprive a father of the right to be with their child, it's a God-given right. I mean, how could somebody even go there? I can't fathom it. It's beyond me.
You do things for children that you know that has to be done or needs to be done, no matter if they're yours or not. Like that one little girl that was in Philly, I can't even remember her name. What was her name? Well, and she came to Virginia, and she didn't have parents really. Yeah, and you, like, I was amazed. I was always like, who's taking care of this child? And it was you. You were taking care of her, basically. I mean, you were forwarding her money, her food, her gas, her housing.
I miss you too. She was like your best. She was like your sister out here, for real, for real. You know what I mean? Y'all did everything together. And yeah, and B will always take all y'all out, all the kids out, and we'll all have a good time. Even the parents would come out. The people that didn't even come out usually with their kids. You know what I mean? When B come, take Alyssa up and all the other kids. Parents sometimes felt like they had to go too because they wanted to have a good time. So your dad brought a lot of joy to like a lot of people over here. It's crazy because after he left, I kind of seen the decline of it. I was going for a few for school. I went to school in Ohio for like 3 years. But periodically when I come back, I can just tell that things have changed, And it definitely is back to the way it was, you might as well say, before he came. And that's something that's very powerful. It's a powerful impact that a person can have. So, you got a great person as a father, you know what I mean? And you need to recognize that for sure. He's definitely a biggest influence, or one of my biggest influences in my life.
To return to the main menu, please hold while your call is transferred to the next available representative.